Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about Visit to the Unknown from Tensei Shitara Slime Talk, and so without any ado let's begin. Visit to the Unknown, 12 Great Modifications in an Old Battlefield Part 2. The adults sighed in exasperation. But there was a look of trust towards Feldera and the others as well. As for the children, they cheered at the prospect of the time of rest, and delicious food, that would be coming. No one objected, and so it was decided that they would all head to this abandoned testing ground. An hour had now passed since Zaza had led them to the old testing ground. Everyone was now absorbed in the search for materials. They had also all taken off their protective gear and were dressed lightly. Obviously, this was because Feldera had purified the area. The children and Feldera were now staring at the ground and seemed to be having a passionate debate. They inspected the parts the adults had gathered and argued over how to assemble them. Beretta calmly went about repairing and modifying. Ramaris watched him and complained about the choices she didn't like. This continued until the sun began to set. Then the children cleaned out old trenches and slept in them. As Feldera had also isolated the place within a barrier, they were all able to sleep without their suits on. No matter how advanced the suits were, you could not get much rest if you had to sleep while sitting up. And so it wasn't just the children, but even the adults slept a deep sleep as if to make up for the past several days of exhaustion. Next to them, there were those who did not sleep. Feldera, Ramaris, and Beretta. Zaza was patrolling the area as usual, so it was just these three that remained now. They were whispering to each other, careful that their voices would not be heard by anyone else. Hey. What about this idea? You can put beam cannons on both shoulders and also the head. And then the chest can open up and there will be another one. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it cool? Are you stupid? You can't equip beam cannons all over someone's body. The engine won't be able to power them. Besides, with only a heat release plate and conductive heat lines, there is no way you can keep the thing cool enough. And adding so much garbage does not make something look awesome. But Lord Feldera, there was a child that asked if you could install 2 engines. And it is not impossible, so perhaps we can at least have the cannons on both shoulders. I see. Etc. They were testing the ideas gathered from the children during the day and seeing which were viable. All of Ramaris's ideas considered nothing but her personal tastes. The current plan was to secure a means of transportation and new weapons for Zaza and the others while everyone still slept. They had already finished the vehicles. 5 large transport buses that could carry 200 passengers each. The vehicles had been completed quietly and were now parked in a line. They had gathered parts from destroyed tanks and reused them. The basic structure had already gone through appraisal and it was determined that they would run just fine without the need for a test drive. Even in this world, their skills were very good. They removed the 200mm rail guns, which were the main weapons, and improved the stability and speed of the vehicles. Thanks to that, in spite of the legs being like a caterpillar, its maximum speed now exceeded 100 km per hour. They had also considered comfort, and space expansion had been used to make the seats more spacious. There was even an area where you could lie down. As for the distance that they could travel. After all, they were equipped with thermonuclear fusion engines. As long as the body of the vehicle did not break, it could run nearly forever. They would no longer have to walk around on foot. Travel would be much easier. As it was a caterpillar, bad road conditions did not matter, and they were sure that they could reach their destination on the next day. And then there was the new equipment for Zaza and the others. This was the current topic of discussion, and they were not united in their opinion. Ramaris wanted more power. Feldera talked about the importance of aesthetics over utility. Beretta tried to make them come together, but his efforts were like a candle in the wind next to these stubborn two. Really, why can't we make it so they shoot out destructive rays from all over their bodies? What would be the point in that? It will hit our own men. They argued. Beretta was tired. It was getting annoying. And so he decided to leave them and started repairing the equipment on his own. First, he pulled out the powered suits that were the least damaged and lined them up. And then he disassembled them. As he did this, it will be easier to imagine after seeing the real thing. That's right, Master. Now that I think about it, Zazie can use this, right? Then we can make a few of them. Even if we install all the beam weapons on it, you can just think of them as commander cannons. I think that's a great idea. Perhaps. As Beretta said, we could add 2 engines and raise its power output. they said. The two had stopped fighting and were now watching what Beretta was doing. First, we should decide what the main weapon will be. Oh. Beretta. Do you have an opinion on that? Beretta nodded. Beretta's opinion often leaned towards Ramirez's opinion. He was like his master. Long live the giant ship cannon cause. Men had a tendency to romanticize big guns. And there was a good reason for it too. As long as you did not misuse them, they were very effective weapons. And so Beretta had no issue with adding high-powered weapons. First, the neutron launcher. This has quite a punch. It's a must. It sure is. I understand. However, Beretta shouted heatedly. If you put your arms together to make a cannon, the enemy will immediately know that you're about to do something. What? Why? But it looks so cool. I thought it looked cool too, but that is a good point. That's right. In this instance, coolness has nothing to do with it, Lord Ramirez. Ugh. Fine. Next. Beretta nodded. And then they continued. As for this weapon, it was probably made in this style due to the confidence that the enemy will not be able to do anything once it is fired. It does not require much time to prepare, and there are no fatal flaws. However, I have a better idea. So saying, Beretta began to draw on the ground while explaining. It was not a wearable powered suit, but a battle body that could be considered a second body. He also had ideas for improved cyber bodies and new powered suits. The powered suit would be equipped with converted high-power firearms that would usually only work in a battle body. And while none were able to shoot beams from their entire body, most of Ramirez's demands had been fulfilled. Very impressive, Beretta. This is a design that contains all my hopes and dreams. The two of them forgot that they had been arguing, and they stared hard at the designs on the ground. I see. This new battle body houses a nuclear fusion reactor in its heart from the beginning. Indeed, if I were to use space manipulation, the space expansion technology could be much improved. It could help with power shortages as well. And yes. The beam weapons are on the outside. Now we can have lots of them and they can be exchanged depending on the need. This is amazing, Beretta. I am not worthy of such high praise. After that, they talked about whether they could not make even more interesting weapons with the remaining parts. The debate grew increasingly more enthusiastic, and their mischievous side took hold, resulting in the most shocking modifications being made. Of course, the consequence was obvious. So, Zaza. Which one do you want? What? What is? When Zaza and the others returned from their patrol in the morning, they saw a line of super weapons with fearsome power. Ramirez looked proud. Beretta was full of a sense of accomplishment. Zaza had a distant look in his eyes. Carmen and his men stood there in shock. The children looked at the buses and the line of weapons with shining eyes. The adults talked about how the buses had been there when they woke up. It was so removed from reality that they could not believe it. Feldera watched these reactions and laughed loudly. Kahahaha. Now, all of you. You must ride these vehicles so we can get out of here. Zaza. Stop standing there like a fool. You and Carmen must decide who will use what weapon. Wait a minute. Before we do anything, where did this all come from? Feldera tried to run through it as if it was nothing, but Zaza demanded an explanation. However, it was Carmen who tried to calm him. Now, Zaza. I think it's time we accept things. Those people are not normal. It's the way things are. Let's just accept it and use these weapons. He showed surprising adaptability. Carmen had decided to accept these weapons as reality. Sharma and Rindo followed. Lord Feldera. How are these used? Miss Sharma. These things happen to be my specialty. Leave it to me. Ah, Rindo. I'll leave it to you, then. Lord Feldera. Thank you very much. Now we shall be able to travel safely. They settled in very quickly. They had decided that it was a waste of time acting stunned, and it was better if they lived with a positive mindset. Hey. I'm the only one being left behind. Zaza wanted to cry. However, no one cared about him. So he had no choice but to get on the bus. So, Zaza. Are you prepared to have your brain transferred to the new machine? As we predicted, it's you and Carmen who are best suited for these battle bodies. Feldera said. Beretta and Ramirez were currently operating on Carmen. One of the buses had a workshop on the second floor that also acted as a weapon storage. It was possible to perform simple operations there. Zaza didn't say anything anymore. As Carmen had said, there was no point in agonizing over what Feldera and the others said. All right, I'll do it. I don't want to lose any more of my comrades, he said, after finally making up his mind. Karma's operation finished in less than an hour, and Zaza was operated on next. As they only needed to transfer the brain inside the capsule and adjust it, it was child's play for Ramaris and Burita to perform. And so Zaza's operation was finished, and Carmen's men also underwent modifications. And like that, Zaza, Carmen, and his men gained a new power to fight. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more content.